What's up, fam? Welcome to Off the Reservation, a show that's all about pleading the fifth. I'm your number one wizard, Mal.
I'm Mel.
And I plead the fifth. No, it's all aliases. I'm the son of Picasso.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm not an alias.
Illy.
I am the wizard.
It's because you live above the law.
I don't know. I don't.
Would you consider yourself above the law, Mel?
I do. I'm native. I rely on the law of the land.
Wait, is it above the law or below the law if you're living like
Above.
on the
Above
other side?
the law.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, above, because you're above it. You're better than it.
I'm better than the law because I live by the law of the land. If you're doing unscrupulous things, then you're under the law.
Yeah, under the watch of the law.
Yeah.
It's an over-under.
Now I'm just confused.
It's
I'm
all
confused by
about the
law. But see, that's the way the law's set up for natives. It's set up to confuse you.
Yeah. you don't know where you stand. You don't know what's going on.
It's all about the law of the jungle.
There I was, walking down the street, minding my own affairs. I was free.
Well, I mean, you know,
The law of the wild.
yeah, I mean,
Newton's third law. Every object stays in motion until acted on by a
I think it
equal
was
and
the
opposite.
second law.
Is that the second law?
No, it could be. It's probably the third. I'm just messing with you.
You made me question things. I was trying to do it with all confidence as I could, and that's how you get around the laws is doing everything with confidence.
Oh, with complete authority that you're within the law and
yeah, you
whatever
just start.
you're doing is.
Remember, Dave versus Carl of 1942. That allows me to go ahead and steal your Cookie Crisps.
Dave
You know,
versus
my
Carl.
favorite thing about like we've been watching all together, like about breaking the law, is the stealth camping.
Oh,
Like with
yeah,
Steve.
yeah.
And like he
Yeah.
puts on the high vis vest, and he's like, if you let them see you doing it, then they're not gonna think anything. And so
Yeah,
he puts on the
that's
high
true.
vis vest, and he
Yeah,
like,
that's a good theory, or not a theory, but that's a good way to look at it. 'Cause
Yeah.
if you look like you belong, then nobody's gonna say anything.
yeah.
Yeah, that's how you sneak into movie theaters nowadays. You just look like you put on a vest, you walk through, and everyone's gonna be like, "Oh, they got
still
a
wear
vest."
Oh, a high vis vest.
A high
Have
vis.
you seen those guys do that? I think it was
Yeah.
on TikTok, right? They like pretend like they walk in with a ladder and they have their like construction get up, like the high vis vest.
Yeah.
And then they like walk in and they're like, "What are you doing?" Like, "Oh, we're here to work on."
I'm here with maintenance.
And they're like, "Oh, okay." And then let them in and they say, "Yeah." Then we went to go watch a 2-hour movie. It's like, oh man, you kids.
I mean, that takes some guts. Like
Yeah.
I don't think I could do that.
Sneaking into a movie.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so like on how much I'd like have issue with like actually breaking the rules, like so we went to Walmart, my wife and I, we go through Walmart, we go through the checkout, we pay for everything, and we're on our way out. Well, the greeter stops us and she's like, "Oh, okay, let me see your receipt." And I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." So we let her see it. She goes, "Oh, okay, cool." Gives us a check, like, "Hey, you're good." We go to walk through the doors, and all of a sudden the thing goes off, and we're like, "What?" And we're those people that stop.
Yeah.
So we stop, and she comes over, and she's like, "Oh, let me see it. Hold on." And she looks at it again, sees like, "Oh, no, I don't see anything off here." Okay, well, probably just forgot to get demagnetized. Go ahead through. We get all the way to the car, and I'm still looking at the receipt, like, what was it that like what's off about this? And we had bought one of those TV mounting kits for the wall, and this is like something that's like maybe like $50-$60, and I don't see anything on there for $50-$60. And we're get all the way to the car, and my wife is like, do you see what, like, is there anything off? And I was like, I don't think we paid for the wall mounting thing. And she goes, "I scanned it." And I was like, maybe it didn't scan correctly or something. And we're like,
So
what do we do?
What do we do?
And I was like, my conscience is telling me to go back.
I gotta go pay for that.
We got to go pay for that because, that's the kind of person, like, I believe, like,
Oh, integrity
work.
is, yeah.
yeah, I work for my money. I work hard for my money. If I'm going to go spend it, I'm going to go spend it and do do right because everyone should get what they earned and they ask. But at the same time, it's $50. Like,
Yeah.
I could turn that into something else. And I was like, I don't know. And she's the exact same way. So both of us stood there and were like, all right.
What
So
are you
she
doing?
she runs
See,
back in
you know-
and she sees the greeter lady, and the greeter lady's like, oh, what you doing? And she's like, oh, it doesn't look like this scanned on our receipt. She shows the lady the receipt and everything. She's like, oh, okay. And then she's like looking at her like, why did you come back?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then everyone from then on, like everyone that T like ran into, she was like, they were like, why did you come back? And we're like, we just bought a house. I'm not starting with this bad karma on me. Like,
Yeah. You know, I see your side of the coin, but at the same time, like, I guess I just have this issue with Walmart, right?
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
they changed their whole metrics to where you
Oh.
are the cashier.
Oh yeah, you got to do everything yourself.
Like, you
Oh,
haven't
yeah,
had
I
any
get that.
training. You know what I'm saying? So, like, there you
I mean,
are
I do,
scanning
but-
along. You can't tell the difference between beeps. Like, whether it's a beep that
I
says,
can.
hey, I
Yeah.
got this or
Yeah.
not. Oh, well, I'm saying
I mean,
just-
like I worked as a
Yeah.
cashier, so I recognize like.
Well, it's almost
things.
like you're saying. You could take this argument of like, well, like you're putting the responsibility on me.
Yes,
to make
and
sure
I'm
that
not a
everything's there.
professional. And like, to quote a comedian, he's like, I'm here in my street clothes, you know, I'm just a normal guy, I don't work here. But yet for just a few moments I do work here. For a few
Yeah.
moments I am like, am I getting like
Yeah,
health
they're putting that
benefits working
respons-
here? Like what? So then it's like you put the fail safe on this elderly woman at the front who's supposed to check everybody's receipt
Yeah.
to make sure they took water,
Yeah.
paid for this, paid for that, and it's like, come on guys, like you're really like trying to get a lot for free. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? By making your customers like
getting
check.
free labor out
So
of
it's
me.
like, if that's what happens, that's on you.
Oh.
But at the same time, like, we were raised with integrity. We were
Yeah.
raised to have morals, and so it's like you see something like that, you're going you know, you're
Yeah,
going
I'm
make
gonna
it
do it.
right. But
Yeah.
Like I've gone back for I accidentally walked out with thread.
Oh yeah, I remember you telling me that
Yeah,
story.
and I was like-
I thought this was that story because it's very similar.
No,
Yeah.
this happened more recently. It's the same place. But I just like we walked out with thread, and I was like, it's $1.
Yeah.
And I was like,
see, you know what though?
pay for it.
Integrity is one of those things where it's like tested. Like, you're tested on a small level like that, right? Like
Yeah.
with like thread or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, on the other end, like when you start getting up in business, like I had somebody double pay me for an invoice, right? And like, this is like double $1,000, and at
Yeah.
the same time, it's a big business, and I know that they're not going to catch it, right? But I'm like, you know what I mean? This is my business. This is
Yeah.
my reputation. If I don't call them and say, hey, you double paid me, you need to take part of this back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Send it back to them or whatever. It's kind of like, you know, it's, what are they going to do when they do find out? They're going to be like, hey,
Yeah,
like,
it could be a lot worse.
yeah,
Consequences could be
don't
worse.
do business
Yeah.
with them. You know
Yep.
what I mean? And so it's like, you never know. You
Yeah.
never know. So
Yeah.
integrity, man.
Pass it on. What was
Pass
it
it
that?
on.
Pass it on. Integrity.
Integrity. All right, guys. Hey, we're gonna take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
And we're back from that short break.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I mean, we talked about like integrity.
Yeah. Wait, real quick. All right, so I've got a story just like yours, basically.
Yeah.
Similar situation, but way out of proportion. All right, so we were getting a gift, a TV for one of my in-laws.
Yeah.
It was like a birthday, Mother's Day. You know, one of those all
Yeah,
wrapped
yeah.
up in one. So we were picking it up from Best Buy. And it was like it was a very large amount. I mean, it was a TV, you know?
Yeah.
And it was a good TV. And so we had ordered it on one end at one store. And they were like, well, we don't have it here. You can still order it. That way we'll hold it for you. And it's at the other store, though. You got to go drive to get it. But you can pick it up. I said, okay. They didn't have it ready. So we had to wait till the next day. The next day, we get there. And they're like, okay, yeah, no, we do have it. Give it to us, pack it up. Okay, great, you know. We think that's it. Online on the app with Best Buy, it'll say like, "Hey, your item's ready for pickup," or it's done. You know.
Yeah.
It was still showing that it was ready for pickup, and I was like, okay, this is weird. You know, we're like, well, maybe they just didn't like click the hey, they picked it up yet. You know.
Yeah.
So we waited a couple days, and it's still on there, and we were afraid like because it says if you don't pick it up by a certain date, we'll cancel it. You'll be refunded. You know.
Yeah.
And so we were like, well, maybe we need to go talk to them. So we went to the store and we were like, went to the customer service and we were like, hey, so our app says that our order is ready. I was like, but we've already picked it up. And she's like, oh, let me see. And she just scans it and she's like, oh yeah, it shows that the TV's here. It's ready for you guys. Let me go get someone to pull it out. And I was like, no, we already have it. And she was like, what do you mean? I was like, we came and picked it up like 2 days ago. And she was like, really? I was like, yeah. She's like, I need to get my manager. And then the manager comes over and she's like, thank you guys so much for telling us.
Oh,
I was like,
man, yeah.
I was like, oh, like we would have gotten a free TV. Like, and the manager, like they all knew. Like, that's why they were like, thank you. You know, because they knew like you could have gotten a free TV. Of course, there's probably be like a felony, you know, when they figured it out. But it's like, yeah, we were just like, oh man, that was intense. Because if we were worse people, we probably, you know, someone would have taken it, you know, a second TV and then.
And see, like for me, like I think about that and I'm like, man, that'd be cool. Like just be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna work the system like that.
Yeah.
But like ultimately, I know deep down, I'm not gonna do it. Like I would be like, I gotta sort this out. Like this is gonna be somebody's job if they find out like I did something like this.
Yeah.
Or, like, you know, someone didn't press the right button and it's gonna be them and
yeah, no, definitely. But like, I mean, all of this kind of goes into our topic of discussion we wanted to talk about today was like, you know, dealing with like our run-ins with the law enforcement. Yeah. You know, like, I guess maybe even more so like what was the first like time you ever had to deal with like law enforcement? Mm-hmm. So I don't know who's got their story first.
I'll go.
All right.
So I've had a few run-ins with the police, and it wasn't like I've never really done anything, I don't think, like that bad, like loitering at a park, you know, after hours, you know,
after hours,
that kind of a thing. And you know, but the main time that I can remember actually having an actual run-in with the police and to where you know, I had to be extra careful was one of my friends. She had asked for a ride from the place she was living to somewhere else, and she asked me if I could give her and her daughters a ride. And we're like, yeah, sure, you know. So my dad comes with me. He was like, you know, you don't know if they need like a booster seat or something. And at the time, the twins, they were pretty young, and so we had 2 booster seats in the truck. So we pull up and we're waiting outside her parents' house, and her parents and her didn't have like the greatest of relationships, and so we're sitting there, and my friend, she gets out, goes and knocks on the door, and nobody answers, and she's like, that's weird. About like 5 minutes later, a police car comes driving down the road, and I'm like, oh man, I bet that's for us. And I was like, I don't know why, but like, you know, all of a sudden they pull in behind us and the lights flash on, and we're like, that's cool, you know. A few minutes later, they're coming up and like, hey, can you step out of the car? And at that time, I've always collected knives, and so that day I had picked up like 2 more knives on top of like the 2 or 3 that I usually have on myself. So at the moment, I had like somewhere around like 6 knives on me. And so I'm like, oh great. So I get out, talk to him, and he pretty much is like, do you have any weapons on you? And I'm like, well, yeah. He's like, all right, put your hands over your head. So I'm standing there. He pats me down, and he's like, all right, where are they located? And he's like, you don't have anything in your pockets that I'm going to hurt myself on. And I was like, I have a bunch of knives in my pockets. Like, you know, be careful. I don't want you to cut yourself on them. But I mean, like, no, I don't have anything else. And he's like, okay, cool. And I, you know, like, it's that thing of like naturally, like growing up, being brown, being native, you're always like, all right, just
you're
comply.
leery of the cops.
Just- yeah, you're worried. You don't want to like cause them anything. So I'm like my arm, like my heart rate's elevated. I'm like nervous and things. I got my hands over my head, and I'm like making sure like just don't jerk, don't do any crazy movements, you know. And pretty soon he's disarmed me. I got like 8 knives or something like that laying out on the hood of the car, and he's like, "Are you serious?" And I'm like, I don't have any good excuses. I picked up like 3 of them today. I don't know what you like, I don't know. He's like, so from then on I was like, maybe I need to like cut down on how many like I have on me at one point.
On me at one point.
Yeah. Which at the same time, I've asked a few police officers. I even asked them. I was like, "How many is like is there a law against carrying that many?" He goes, "No, I don't know."
It's America.
He's like, "I don't know." And a lot of the times, I get the answer like, "What's the length of a knife that you can carry on you?" And they're like, "I don't know." Just you know,
that's the facts. They don't know.
I'm
like if you have a machete, then we might say something. But
yeah, like he was
and
like,
you're
if
menacing walking around with it out. That's
like
just
if I'm brandishing it like at people, you know, like obviously they're gonna do something about it.
Well, so how did that situation end? What was
pretty much they were like, okay, cool, go ahead and collect them, go ahead, put them back, and wait in the car. And we waited in the car. A few minutes later, they were like, oh, okay, this is just some misunderstandings, and
okay,
parents are acting a fool.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And so
let you out.
They let us out. I mean, my dad was at the time like considered like an elderly man. Like, what are we?
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing? And so, I mean, it all went okay. But I mean, like that was the most intense interaction I had with the police.
Man,
yeah,
that is intense.
I mean, I was probably had more weapons on myself than they did. So.
Oh man! All right. Well, hey, that was a good story.
All right, and we'll be right back.
Hey guys, it's Elle. Just wanted to say thanks for tuning into the show. Remember to rate, review, and subscribe. And remember, do or do not, there is no try. Okay, so just do it. It's that easy. All right, back to the show. Hope you guys enjoy. Thanks.
And we're back. I don't know why, but today I'm on this like intense voice. Sorry,
possessed voice.
Is it a possessed voice? And we're back.
It's very. I don't know. How would you say? It's very
aggressive,
menacing.
Is it a menacing? Yeah,
I think it's a menacing voice.
I think it.
That boy's a menace.
He's a menace. Yeah. Well, Mal was just letting us know about his run-in with Johnny Law.
Johnny Law.
Johnny Law.
Breaking the law.
All right, son Picasso, how about you? I know you've got a story.
Oh man,
maybe more.
So this one actually comes with charges, right?
Oh.
So rewind all the way back to 18-year-old son of Picasso, right?
Oh.
And for those of you who don't know, one of my very first cars I ever owned was a 1966 Ford Mustang. Completely cherried out. Like, honestly, no 18-year-old has any business owning a vehicle like this, right?
Yeah.
And
I can attest it's a very nice vehicle.
And, here I am driving around Albuquerque, and to be perfectly honest with you, I caught the attention of police, right? And it wasn't because of speeding. It was just quite literally because it was a brown man in a nice car. And the very first time I got pulled over, I was with some of my white friends who just so happened to be like 17 years old. I was 18. I was the only 18-year-old in the car. Yeah. And we had just met up with some females that were also white, right? Mm. And so these police officers, or cops, I guess, saw us interact with these people and just were like, we're not having this. And yanked me out of the car, put handcuffs on me, wanted to know who I was, why I was driving this vehicle, how did I know these white girls, how did I know these white boys, what was I selling them, open the vehicle up, right? And like, this is just like on a Friday night, just sitting in front of, Taco Cabana, just hanging out with our friends.
Yeah.
Oh,
right?
that's on what's it, Montgomery?
Yeah.
Right. That's
And
a
so-
cruising spot.
And
Yeah,
so
there was, yeah.
there I was, just 18-year-old kid.
Yeah.
Right. And it was kind of crazy because it had just so happened to be right after Indian Market, right? And I've always been a full-time artist, so I'm sitting there and like they pull my wallet out of my pockets, like they want to know why I have all this cash on me.
Got bands on bands.
Yeah, and they're just like, and I'm just like, I'm an
It's all-
18-year-old kid,
Yeah.
and so they're like, okay, well, the rest of you are getting citations, and you're getting a criminal trespassing charge. And so I was like, what? And so it just created this whole, I guess, spiral of hiring lawyers and getting caught up in the system. And I have to say, ever since then, I've never had a respect for police officers. And it was because of that situation. And as I grew up, and I don't want to say it was because of the car,
Yeah.
but having such a high profile car and being brown definitely let me see the jealousy among the working class police officers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like one of the last times I remember, I was taking my mom for a drive to go get her medication, right? And
Yeah.
we're driving down Montgomery and pulling into Walgreens, and literally like lights pop up in the back. And ever since I was a little kid, she always taught me how to interact with the police, right? Because police love to, exude their authority on people of color, children of color. So we pull over and she goes, just keep your hands on the steering wheel. And I look at her and I'm like, Mom, you taught me the drill. I know what to do. So I put my
This isn't my
information
first
up.
time.
I'm sitting there, and the cop goes, get out of the car, sir. And like the terror on my mom's face was just like, oh my gosh. So I get out of the car, and I'm thinking like he's going to give me a field sobriety test or something like that.
Yeah.
And he looks at me and he goes, I want you to know that you have a very beautiful car. And didn't give me a ticket, didn't give me a reason for pulling me over. And, I look back at that situation now as a 40-year-old man, and I'm like, you pulled me over and violated my civil rights, found out where I lived, went through my possessions, and then told me I had a nice car. Like, how does this work in America, right?
Yeah.
And it opened my eyes to the other side, right? Because as we're all growing up,
Yeah.
like we're all raised by the exact same type of parents. Your parents have integrity, like we talked about. Our parents were raised on that side of the law, right?
Mm-hmm.
So as we're growing up, here we are, good people, right? And all of a sudden you have this entity that sees the color of our skin, and it's like, that's suspect one. Let's watch them, right?
Yeah.
And I guess that was one of my first interactions with the cops, and that's how the world, I guess, was opened up to me, so to say.
Yeah.
Those blinders were lifted. And, a lot of it was because of money. I mean, I guess if I was just a kid riding down the road on my bike, you know what I mean, looking
Yeah.
bummy, they wouldn't have stopped me.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that was...
I think as a person of color, right, like it's hard to not feel that anxiety when you're around people of law enforcement. You just feel like they're zeroing in on you. You know what I mean? And you
Well-
could be doing nothing.
It made me feel two ways about it, right? One way, it made me feel like, oh man, I shouldn't have been that flashy out and about, right?
Yeah.
Like, it made me internalize it and make me feel like I did something to bring
like
their
you
attention
did something
on me.
wrong. Yeah.
And fast forward to now, my school of thought is, you want to watch me? All right. I'll give you a reason to watch me. I'll wear nicer shoes than you. I'll flaunt my money around. I'll make you feel lesser than, because I want you to feel like how I felt. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that may be hard for viewers to view and to listen to,
Yeah.
but that's the facts. That's the world that we live in.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, this is the George Floyd world. And if it's too hard for you to understand that and wrap your heads around, then pull your head out of the sand and take a look at what people of color deal with just driving to the
Yeah.
gas station to get gas
Or going to work.
or going to work, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember, this is my story real quick. I remember back in high school, I was one of my friends. He had a car. We didn't have a car. I didn't have a car, but one of our buddies had a car, and I think we were going to someone's house to play some video games or something. We were driving down the road. He was going admittedly faster than the speed limit down this little stretch of road, but it wasn't like he wasn't like zoom in, like it wasn't egregious. He wasn't going to kill somebody, you know. But for whatever reason, I was wearing my seatbelt weird. Like, you know, like you have the band or the seatbelt comes across.
Yeah.
Well, for whatever reason, it was like, uncomfortable. So I put it behind me. I was still wearing it. It was still clicked in, but I had it behind me, you know?
Yeah.
So it was basically just around my waist. And we were driving, and I was like, hey, slow down, man. It's like, hey, you got to slow down. And he's like, oh, okay. So he slows down. But it was too late. We looked over, and there was this motorcycle policeman on the side, and he had his radar gun. And he, like, I knew as soon as I saw him, and he was, of course, it was this like older, like Anglo, you know, the older white guy, you know, as a cop, and I could see he had like the classic aviator. He just looked like a jerk, you know what I mean? And I could see it. I was like, oh man. And like, so, you know, I was like putting my seatbelt back over the other way as we, you know, and he was pointing at us as we were driving by. He was pointing and told us to pull over, you know? So I was like, oh man. So my friend pulls over, and you know, he pulls us off to the side, and he walks up, and he was like, you guys know how fast you were going? And I was like, we don't, you know. And he was like, he's like, well, you know, I'm gonna have to give you all citations, you know, because I clocked you in at going, I don't know, maybe it was like 5 or 6 over. It was like, really, man? But and then he's like, and then also I'm gonna have to give you a warrant or citation. He pointed at me, and I was like, how come? Like, why, you know? And like, there was like me and my friend, we're both brown, you know. And then the third guy, our third friend, he was white, you know, and he was sitting in the back seat, but it was just us two up front. And he was like, he's like, yeah, you didn't have your seatbelt on. I was like, no, I had it on. I just, you know, wasn't wearing it maybe the right way, you know. I was like, but it was click. He's like, no, I saw you pull it over and put it on as soon as you saw me. And I was like, but that's not what happened, you know? And like, I am not very good in like confrontational situations, you know?
Yeah.
And like, I was just a kid. Like I was like, you know, I was like 16, you know? And I was like, I just like my, like, you know, that feeling you get when you're like
anxiety.
like when you're in an argument with someone and you're just like, your heart is just like pounding, you know? And I was like, I don't know what I'm going to say. I don't know what to do. That's, I don't know other way to explain it, but that's how it is when you're being questioned in those situations. You could have not been doing anything wrong, or it could have been extremely minor, but you never know how police officers are going to react to your situation. And that's the thing that scares me the most, you know. Like, I do have respect for police officers. I do, because I know they deal with a lot of people that just are out of their mind, or, you know, like they are in some pretty bad situations. But I'm also like, I'm not one of those people. And if you would just listen to me and let me explain, like, I could tell you what's going on, you know, but it doesn't go that way, like most times, you know? And so, like it was a bad experience. And now to this day, I still feel the same way. I don't like have a reason to be pulled over. I don't have a reason to, you know, but every time I see a cop, I'm like,
be cool, man.
Be cool. Yeah. They're gonna pull me over. Like, and it's just that. And I don't know, is that exclusive to us as people of color, or is it, you know, do other people feel that way? I don't know. What I do know is that plenty of us do feel that way, you know, and it's just,
I mean, there's plenty of us that when we see a cop driving alongside of us or driving in an opposite direction, we clock it and we wait and we're like, are they going to see me? Are they going to try to, are they trying to get me? And then I don't know if it's for other people, but then my usual next thought is like, all right, how do I make sure that I don't get shot? You know,
it is very interesting because I have come across people of color who have had no experience with police officers.
Yeah.
And then they do have a negative experience, and then they tell me about it, and they're like, "Can you believe this has been going on?" And it's like, and then I leave them with this. I say, "Back the blue until it happens to you." right? Like that's literally what
Yeah.
everybody supports them until something negative happens, and then they're like, oh wow, this is still happening.
Yeah.
Like it's, you know,
Can you believe the police did that?
yeah, and it's like,
Yeah.
where have you been living? You know, it is hard because in the same sense, you have a lot of people that just lick the boots of the police, and it's like you guys are the problem and think that these people have impunity to act however you want, like you're the judge, jury, and executioner. And
Well, I mean, to add on to that, I mean, my wife, she worked at 911 dispatch, 911 operator, and instead of that job making her feel more comfortable with like police being involved in our house or doing anything, it's actually made her a lot more cautious about like, is this a situation where we call the police? Mal, if the police come to our house, make sure you don't have any of your knives on you, whether or not I'm an aggressor or not. Like if somebody breaks into our house, like Mal, make sure take off all your weapons, whatever you have. Like if you have a knife, you have a sword, whatever, make sure it's completely away from you and you be careful.
Yeah.
Because I mean, she's dealt with a lot of situations where people of minority were singled out, even though they weren't the aggressors in any situation.
it is kind of crazy because for those of you who don't know, like I'm a paramedic, right? In the past, I've had to step in and life or death situations to help save lives and do other things when I'm just a civilian walking around, right? And there's been multiple times where I've had to step on scene and help, and I ultimately get frisked. Do you know what I mean? Like, who's this? Why are you here? I'm like, I'm a paramedic. Here's my credentials. Do you mind if I pat you down? Do you know what I mean? I'm like, get the yeah, like it's like, so
Yeah, I do mind.
you know, I have my reasons for my views of law enforcement, but
They're not just out of the blue.
yeah. So
All right.
it's been an interesting conversation to talk with you guys about and
Man,
share
it's-
personal stories.
It's getting heated in here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Literally,
I feel
too.
like the
It's-
man's.
Yeah. All right.
I'm baking like a toasted cheese here. It's so hot in here. All right. No. Yeah, that was a good discussion. I think hopefully that's interesting for people to hear. You know?
Yeah.
Um,
At least open the dialogue to have these conversations.
Yeah, definitely.
Because it's a tough world out there.
It ain't easy being.
Yeah.
Greasy.
Yeah, there you go. All right, guys. We are off the reservation, and we will.
Catch you on the flip side.
Yeah.
And remember to rate, review, and subscribe and share
Wear those seatbelts.
the right way.